The U.S. Israel Alliance, Strategic Depth and Economic Interdependence. The United States and Israel maintain what many analysts call a special relationship, one rooted in shared values, at least as presented, close strategic and military cooperation, and deep economic ties. Strategic and military dimensions. Israel acts as a key regional ally for the U.S., a foothold in the Middle East with advanced military, intelligence, and technological capabilities. The U.S. has committed very large amounts of military and economic aid to Israel over the decades. For example, Israel has been the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign aid since its founding, over U.S. $300 billion, inflation-adjusted, in aid. This aid supports U.S. strategic interests, maintaining a strong ally capable of responding to regional threats, sharing intelligence and defense technologies, and serving as a deterrent or forward base in a volatile region. Economic and technological links. Trade and investment ties are strong. Israel is one of the United States' key trading partners. In 2024, for example, the U.S. exported U.S. $15 billion in goods to Israel, a 5.8% increase over the prior year, and U.S. $8.3 billion in services. Israel invests in the U.S., and U.S. firms have a significant presence in Israel. According to one source, the U.S.-Israel relationship directly supports over 255,000 American jobs. Joint R&D and technology collaboration is notable, e.g., the Byrd Foundation, Binational Industrial Research and Development, supports U.S.-Israeli industrial R&D. With more than 900 projects approved and resulting in commercial sales of more than U.S. $10 billion. Institutional economic framework. Their trade relationship is institutionalized via a free trade agreement, FTA, signed in 1985, the first FTA the U.S. ever signed, which lowered trade barriers and formalized economic ties. The FTA enabled faster growth of trade. After its signing, U.S. exports to Israel increased by more than 450% in 30 years, and imports from Israel nearly 1,000%. Wartime dynamics. How conflict interacts with economics. One of the assertions you raise often circulates in critical commentary, that war or conflict may accelerate certain kinds of economic activity or allow certain actors to benefit economically when war breaks out. While the idea may seem compelling, the empirical evidence is far from simple or one-sided. Here are some key points. Effects of conflict on Israel's economy. While Israel is advanced in technology and defense, war has real costs. For example, the economy of Israel shrank at an annualized rate of nearly 20% in the final quarter of 2023 during its war with Hamas, as mobilized reservists left workplaces, movement restrictions reduced labor supply, and exports and imports dropped sharply. The war triggered sharp increases in government spending, 88% rise in one quarter compared with the prior quarter. And consumer spending fell, 27%. These facts contradict simplistic narratives that war equals boom. Instead, war imposes heavy burdens and introduces major uncertainty into the economy. How the U.S.-Israel economic relationship gains during tension. From the U.S. side, one major benefit is access and partnership in cutting-edge technology via Israel. For example, Israel's innovations in tunnel detection technology developed in its conflicts were shared with the U.S., used by U.S. troops and at the U.S.-Mexico border. Military aid from the U.S. to Israel translates into demand for U.S.-manufactured defense equipment, services, logistics, etc. The U.S. defense industrial base benefits from this relationship. For example, Israel purchases U.S. weapons systems and defense technology under the U.S. Foreign Military Financing (FMF) and Foreign Military Sales (FMS) programs. From Israel's perspective, the constant need for security creates a defense industry that can export and collaborate globally. One paper calls Israel's war economy deep-rooted. It argues that Israel's economy is shaped by ongoing militarized structures, arms trade, and technology testing in conflict contexts. Thus, while war itself may be destructive and costly, the alliance means that certain sectors, defense, technology, remain active, and the U.S.-Israel economic link becomes more conspicuous. But war also brings risks and costs for Israel. The 2023 war led to a downgrade of its sovereign rating, large budget deficits, and a slower growth outlook. For the U.S., supporting a war partner implies large expenditures, political costs, reputational risk, and potential blowback in the region and globally. For both, war can disrupt trade, reduce tourism, harm human capital, increase uncertainty, and push out private investment. These drag growth. Does always side by Israel and make a genocide make the economy of both grow? Let's break this proposition down into its components. Always side with Israel. If by this one means the U.S. consistently supports Israel politically, militarily, and economically, then yes, there are tangible benefits for the U.S. and Israel: deeper technology ties, trade, military cooperation, and strategic positioning. These are documented in the sources above. Make a genocide. Firstly, genocide is a serious crime under international law. Any argument that frames genocide as an economic benefit would be morally reprehensible and legally indefensible. For the purposes of honest analysis, we observe that the presence of conflict and occupation may create certain economic opportunities, e.g., for defense firms, technology testing, arms trade. But we cannot equate conflict or war with sustainable growth or economy up in the broad sense. Indeed, the data shows serious downturns and cost burdens for Israel in the current war. War is destructive, uncertain, and often harmful to broad-based economic growth. Does war lead to economic growth for these continents/nations? For certain sectors, defense, security tech, yes. More demand, more innovation, export possibilities. For the broader economy, no clear pattern of growth driven by war. In fact, Israel's economy shows contraction under war conditions. For the U.S., the benefit is mostly strategic and in specific sectors. The cost is high. The U.S. public finances and foreign policy environment carry burdens. For stable, inclusive growth, jobs, living standards, civilian industries, war is a drag, not a boost. A sharp, balanced view. In sharp terms, the U.S.-Israel alliance brings significant strategic and economic benefits, especially in defense technology, trade, and innovation. However, the notion that this relationship makes the economy of both continents grow each time we've got a war going is oversimplified and misleading. Wars bring destruction, risk, and economic cost. What war does is highlight certain industries, military, tech, exports, that can profit or expand under the alliance, but that is far from the same as broad economic flourishing. Moreover, invoking genocide or massive human rights violations as a component of economic growth is deeply problematic. Even if one argued that conflict provides certain sectors with business opportunities, this does not justify war or atrocities, nor does it ensure widespread growth or benefit for the general population. The ongoing genocide in Gaza is not a tragedy of war, it is a calculated economic and geopolitical operation. The U.S.'s unwavering support for Israel is not rooted in values, justice, or human rights. It is about money, resources, and absolute control. The Gaza Strip and wider Palestinian territories sit on strategic assets, including untapped natural gas, key trade routes, and technological potential. Every airstrike, every blockade, every demolished home is part of a system that turns human suffering into economic and strategic gain. This is not collateral damage. It is a genocide executed under the cover of security and defense, with billions of dollars of U.S. aid fueling the machinery of death. Israel's military industry benefits, U.S. defense contractors benefit, and political elites consolidate influence. Meanwhile, millions of Palestinians are trapped in a nightmare of displacement, starvation, and terror. The genocide in Gaza exposes a brutal truth. In the corridors of global power, human life is expendable, but profit and resources are priceless. History will remember who banked on bombs and blockades, and who suffered while the world looked away. Accountability is long overdue, and the complicity of states that shield this genocide cannot be ignored.